start. No, don't carry on. We need to disable the waiting room. So colleagues, we are allowing the students to come in now. Okay, thank you so much, Sneh. Good morning, UKZN students and staff. Welcome to the first industry talk for semester 2. In fact, it's the first industry talk for 2022, hosted by the School of Agriculture, Earth and Environmental Sciences. My name is Leena Rajpal, and I'm the Public Relations Representative for the College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science. I want to thank you all this morning for joining us today. Most importantly, I want to thank our guests from KZNDARD who have taken time to present to all our students and staff. I would like to now mention a few house rules. Firstly, the event is recorded. In terms of complying with the POPIA Act, kindly note that we will use this information from the event for publishing purposes. Should you not want your information to be published for the purposes stated above, kindly send your comments to rajpal@ukzn.ac.za. During the course of the events, colleagues, students, all attendees will be muted with their video switched off. If you have any questions during the presentations, kindly post them in the chat box facility where it will be answered. During the Q&A session, the presenter will give you a chance to ask questions. Please raise your hand so that the tech person can identify you and allow you to unmute yourself and pose your questions to the presenter. If by any chance attendees, please note this, interfere with the presentations, we will note your details and we will remove you from the event. Finally, the recordings will be emailed to all attendees present and will also be posted on the CAE website, press.ukzn.ac.za, Tech Talks. I would now like to hand over to Khuthadzo, who is an nGAP lecturer at CAES. You muted, Khuthadzo. You muted.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to this industry talk by the KZN Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. I want to again thank our speakers for taking time out of their busy schedules to empower our students in the College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science. So to our students and colleagues, welcome. I believe that you'll gain knowledge that will benefit for your career, and I encourage you to use the opportunity to also network. So the KZN Department of Agriculture and Rural Development is one of the core employers for the agriculture graduates. And today they will be taking us through some important information that will help you in your career. So they will take us through their recruitment and selection process. They'll give us a bit of an idea of what the UKZN alumni experience has been, and also the role of our graduates in implementation some of their standards and norms. With that said, I would like to encourage our students to ask questions throughout the sessions in the chat box, and they will be answered during the Q&A sessions at the end as well. Without taking too much time, let me welcome our first speaker, Dr. Mkhize, who is the Chief Director, Agricultural Research, Development and Training Institutes. Dr. Mkhize, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, to the principals of UKZN, to the principals of the department, and all protocol observed, including our most important guests, the students. My name has already been given to you. I'm Nomfundzo Mkhize. My presentation, which I'm going to request Khuthadzo to project for me, is going to be an introduction to the session. May I please get the presentation to be loaded? Thank you very much. That is just the first screen that tells you what I'm going to talk about. I want to just give you a glimpse into what opportunities exist for young people in agriculture as a sector. Next slide, please. This slide talks about how we can involve. Please go back. Yes, this slide talks about how we can involve our young people in agriculture. Firstly, I want to make it clear that agriculture is quite broad and it has a lot of opportunities for people of all ages. However, youth are viewed as critical in enhancing the landscape of agriculture. In South Africa, it's almost known by everyone that our farmers are aging. Therefore, young people are needed to ensure that we have continuous production of food. And because agriculture is viewed as untidy or not so sexy, we think we need computerized systems to make sure that agriculture is becoming attractive to young people. There's a lot of aspects, it's not all of them, but some of the aspects that agriculture can offer for the youth, depending what their interest is on. I've mentioned a few here. One of them is engineering. I'll just make an example that, for example, when you talk about engineering, we've got, we'll have boreholes, we'll have animal houses, we'll have dams, which is for livestock drinking. That's why you get involved. There's the geographic information systems in agriculture, which without, you'll always be starting from scratch and you will not know where you're going. We need to have that information stored and we can make use of it to go forward. We need to have advanced technologies which will make agriculture more efficient. I've said in brackets for IR compliant, and by then I'm thinking about things like precision agriculture. And when you Google, you'll see what that means, because right now we are farming, but we want to be more efficient in what we do. We need young people, we need scientists or researchers, which is important that they can come and develop strategies to address challenges like the climate change. We need a biometrician, young people. Once the researcher has done their research and collected data, without a biometrician, it doesn't have any meaning. We definitely need advisory services who will make sure that whatever information has been found on the research and translated through biometrics and or by the biometrician, then it is taken directly to the person who needs it on the ground. Next slide, please. And then we also need the veterinary science who's going to look at all our animals, and that is now domestic animals and wild animals. And you will remember that the crossing of the line between these two can bring us problems, for example, the foot and mouth disease. We need people who are going to be formulating animal feed rations for us and producing, because you can see the cost of the feed is the biggest problem in feed production, is the biggest cost in fact. So we need people who are going to make better options for the farmers who are feeding animals. We need biochemists, we need microbiologists. If I can make an example, we at CDARA, we also produce mushrooms, but because that itself is a fungi, we need to make sure that there are full controls to make sure that there are no dangerous fungi or infections that can go out to the people. The next slide. In this slide, I'm talking about the challenges that are related to agriculture. I'm mentioning just a few, one of them being climate change. I think almost everyone has seen what climate change is doing to us. Not so long ago, end of July, we had serious lightning and thunder and hail, and you just think it's July. So those are the things that need to be thought about, and you need to make a change of plans because they say things are very different. We have challenges that bring about animal and plant health issues. The cost of living is another challenge that we need to look at. We have common and new diseases that compromise the lifespan of South Africans. The most recent one being the COVID-19, which is taking the whole globe by storm. We have a problem that has been talked about by everyone, the increase in population, which is not controllable, but all those people need to be fed. We have the land availability as another challenge. We have the lack of jobs as one of the biggest challenges for young people in our country. And we have also as one of the challenges, the shelf life and market issues for the products that we are producing in agriculture. In the next slide, thank you. I'm proposing some interventions that we must look at. I'm thinking that when you talk about climate change, we need to have people who are going to sit down and develop strategies to address these, because they definitely need a change of plans. The geography that we studied then is not really applicable now. Those climate change issues are actually bringing about the diseases, animal and plant health issues. So we need someone who's going to talk about the cultivars that are going to be resistant to disease. We need someone who's going to look at which breeds can we farm with in terms of livestock that are going to be tolerant and be able to produce despite the climate change issues. In terms of the cost of living, we need to improve the productivity, which will assist to stabilize food prices. I think we've all seen that once a product is in demand, the price also shoots up. You've seen that during the COVID-19 time when we're busy buying garlic and ginger, how expensive it became. We have biomedicinal foods that include the indigenous food that we believe and we have been told that they do strengthen the immunity. These need to be brought back and tested in our laboratories so that we can make use of them, as we have seen that the cost of medicine is becoming unaffordable. In terms of the increase in population, we cannot stop that, but we need to try and produce more on the limited resources, which is land, and the shrinking water, like the resources is one of the water is one of the resources that's shrinking. And unfortunately, we can say that we also want development. We have lots of land which was used for production, but now it's used for development, building houses and stuff. So land is becoming limited, but we still need to produce enough food for the population that is busy increasing. In terms of availability of land, not many people have got enough land. And the bigger piece of land you have using or working on, the bigger the cost and the bigger the problem. So with the piece of land that we have as agriculturalists, we need to make good use of that. That's why young people must make use of that limited land and produce high value products within that limited space, and they must use that, and they must adopt new technologies that are going to assist them to make that happen. I'm making examples of herbs here, producing herbs. I'm making examples of hydroponics and vertical cropping. All these will assist to make sure that in that limited space, you can still produce enough and be able to make a living and produce for the consumer. The young people that we have need to create their own agribusinesses. We have seen how much we do not have enough jobs, and the oldies like myself are not retiring yet. So when we do retire, you'll get the space, but we need to make sure that the young people create businesses and they don't wait for the employment, which is not very common these days. And while creating those agribusinesses, they'll be then employing other youth and creating more opportunities for other people. And then in terms of the value adding of our products, we need to take that a step further. We need to extend the shelf life, and that includes improving our agro-logistics for our products. So young people, what we're saying that all the possible solutions that are going to respond to the challenges which I've mentioned here and even more will require greater involvement of the young people. So the young people must come up with technologies that will enhance the agricultural sector in the entirety. So the young people must roll up their sleeves and take agriculture into their hands and make sure that there's food, because without food, we're not going any far. My last slide, Honorable Chair. I'm giving a quotation here. I'm referring to a very popular leader whose name I'm not going to give. He said, I quote, "Young people are drivers of change and must be fully engaged in decisions affecting their future." Thank you, Chairperson, and the audience. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mkhize. You've really given us a mouthful of knowledge. And I believe our students can now relate what they're doing in their respective courses, and also how it fits into the missions and the activities that are required by KZN as a whole. So without further ado, I hope you have questions. I would want to welcome Mr. Njabulo Ntshangase, who will share his presentation on the role of young people in agriculture through the implementation of norms and standards for extension and advisory services. Mr. Ntshangase, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and greetings to my colleagues from Department of Agriculture and the Rural Development in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And also let me also extend my greetings to my colleagues from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, well, of course, with also our fellow students. I'm here to present in terms of the, as my colleagues also alluded on, in terms of the role of the young people in agriculture sector through the implementation of norms and standards for the extension and advisory services. I must say, Chairperson, that my topic, or this topic, is not solely on the looking specific in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. It is also looking across the breadth and the length of South Africa, In other words, when you go to Limpopo, you will find the same principles in terms of the extension. When you go to Western Cape, you also find the same. So that's why I'm saying it is across the country of our South Africa. Now, in terms of chairperson and the colleagues, we are all, as a Department of Agriculture and the Land Reform and the Rural Development, we are all guided by the prescript, which is norms and standards of extension and advisory services. We are also guided by the framework of extension and advisory services in terms of recovery plan, that is 2011. And also we've got a policy in terms of the extension and advisory services. We've got also the national framework in terms of the extension as a profession in the field of the extension. Well, of course, also we are guided by the national policy in terms of the corporate wear or the uniform of extension and advisory practitioners for the mere effect of the visibility and accountability of our agricultural advisor when they produce, when they also render any services towards our client. Well, of course, lastly is also the report in terms of the multidisciplinary and also training review in terms of the extension. Now, if I continue in terms of the industry, also there is also the change in terms of the industry with respect of the new development within the field of extension in the sector of agriculture. Now, Chairperson and the colleagues and also our fellow students, since 2014 up to 2015, we have a new requirement if you want to join the extension practitioners. Now, one, you need to register in a professional council, which is a natural scientific professional body of Act 1927, of Act 27 of 2003. That one, we cannot able to practice any extension without registering in terms of this professional body. That was established in 2014. The reason for that, so that we can able to standardize the field of extension. When you go, as I said earlier on my open remarks, if you go to other part of the South Africa, within South Africa, you can able also, you also require the same or similar in terms of the act. And also there is also development of the new technology. Colleagues, as also my colleagues, Dr. Mkhize said earlier on, that we need to also familiarize ourselves with the fourth industrial revolution and other innovations that are required for skills and competency to better our client, which is our farmers. And also we've got the currently norms and standard that was developed which is 17 years ago, that also we as an industry in terms of the agriculture, we say that also need to be updated and expand to cover and identified also shortfalls. Now, well, of course, at any industry, there are some challenges. Now, we also sit down and look at the challenges. One will ask, what are the challenges that we have, that we observe in terms of the field? One, the profiling study of the public extension practices conducted by DAF revealed that there is an existing terms of advisor to the producer ratio, which was also unrealistic. In other words, you will find that when I'm going through my slides, there is a less of agricultural advisor vis-a-vis with our farmers. So we need also, we are saying that as a sector, we need to also make sure that we also assist in terms of that. And also the systematic gaps identified by the National Policy Extension and Advisory Services that also needed to be addressed. Number three, in terms of the norms of 2005, that focuses primarily on the agriculture and exclusion of reformed and rural development as a subsector. And Chairperson, also there was also a need to increase the capacitation and also investment in terms of operation budget carrying out in terms of extension and advisory service. Those are a few challenges that we also seen in terms of the field of extension, particular in the field of extension. And also we are saying that there's a need in terms of the improvement of the capacity of extension and advisory services in respect to systematic gap that was identified by the national policy. There's also a report recently reported by McIntosh, Qwabe, and Associate in 2017 on the implementation version of the ERP, which is the Extension and Recovery Program, highlighted a number of areas that need to be addressed. Look at this one. Inadequate recruitment of the technical staff and also attention to staff retention strategy to industry training and also formal mentorship. Number two, in terms of the capacity of the constraint within the national, which is DARD, and also within the provinces, in terms of the managing, monitoring, and also strategical direction in terms of the extension and the recovery plan, which is the ERP. The number of also extension practitioners need to be increased by the 37% at the time, inclusive of the management. However, also Chairperson and the colleagues, the number of also has also since dropped to the current, as we speak now across the country of South Africa, we've got 1,989 extension practitioners across the board of South Africa, all the provinces. That's a total number of, so that's why there is a need to increase the number of extension practitioners in the field. When I continue, Chairperson, as I said that we've got 1,989 extension practitioners, it has to service, listen this, colleagues, it has to service a total number of 3 million households who are actively practicing in agriculture. That's from the source, State SA of 2001. That's a report that you received. Now, which means there is a need to increase the agricultural extension advisors so that we can able to match that number of our farmers, which is above 3 million. Now, in other words, we need to recruit more of our agricultural advisors or our extension practitioners. If you look at that number, it's shocking. If we've got less than 2,000 extension practitioners, where they need also advise more than 3 million households. Now, this also translates to a national extension to the producer ratio. Now, currently, we are sitting at one extension practitioner is equal to 1,552 agricultural farmers. Can you say that they have so many, they are so stretched, rate limited capacity of the practitioner? If I can repeat this, Chair, let's translate a national extension to the producer. If you can look at that one in terms of the one extension officer or one extension practitioner, there's a V with a number of farmers. And also the ratio is above the target. Now, as South Africa, as I said earlier on when I opened my presentation, that we are looking at across the country. We are saying that we agreed that as an industry, we need to make sure that our farmers or our extension officer at least can able to service 250 farmers, not 1,552. So in other words, which means we need to recruit more. In some cases, also the placement of practitioners not aligned to the qualifications, and also inadequate capacitation and investment of the operation budget, also carrying out in terms of extension and advisory services. Now, when you look at this across the country, Chairperson and my colleagues, as I said earlier on, I'm not looking at only KwaZulu-Natal. Because I'm here at KwaZulu-Natal and also working for the Department of Agriculture in the province of KwaZulu. This is the number of practitioners that we have across the country. When you look at the Eastern Cape, you can find how many practitioners do we have. Look at Free State, we've got 115 practitioners that we have. When you look at KwaZulu-Natal, we've got 575 practitioners that we have. Then the total, that's why I'm saying that it is very important for us that in extension also practitioners, we need to increase the capacity also that we can able to have 1,000 and also less than 1,250 and have one extension practitioner to 250 farmers. Then they can able to advise farmers accordingly. Now, if you continue, Chairperson, also what is important, Chairperson, is to create the cadres that are dedicated, skilled, capacitated in terms of extension and advanced services. Number two, in order to improve the efficiency, the relevant, the cost efficiency of the public funded extension. Promote a participatory and pluralistic approach to extension and advanced services. Promote and also implement the value chain is very important in terms of agriculture, and also so that we can able to address that shortfalls. And then also it is compulsory, Chairperson and the colleagues, it is also compulsory to our agriculture advisors, to our professionals in terms of agriculture, so that they can able to register with professional body. This is also the precondition for consideration for employment. In the public sector, Chairperson and the colleagues and also our fellow students, you cannot, it's very difficult now to enter in the public sector to practice agriculture without registering in the professional body. It's very difficult. And in other words, it's a mandatory now that you need to, before you get any job in terms of the public sector, you need to make sure that you register in the professional body. Employment of government department are responsible also to ensure the compliance in terms of implementation and monitoring to enforcement of this one. Now, also, Chairperson, one of the implications that which is the industry, we need to also make sure that we monitor our HRD, where Dr. Sibiya will also tell us. We also assisting in terms of the department, in terms of the organization which is agriculture, for the continuous professional development, which is called CPD. The registered practitioners are required to undertake the continuous professional development by also making sure that they also attend seminars, they also attend workshops, so that they can able to upgrade their skills. So it's very important so that they can able to make sure that also they're in what is happening currently within the industry. Now, the employment government also department must also regularly assess the training and also create an environment in terms of supporting our colleagues, the SACNAPs, and also ending a CPD point active for registering practitioners, Chairperson. Now, as I said earlier on, what is also we are saying across the country, projected extension practitioners to the producers. I've said that earlier on, that when you look at the smallholder, we are saying that in terms of the smallholder, we are saying one extension officer at least 150 in terms of the crop. Also, in terms of the farmers, when we categorize it, we've got also those that are dealing with the crops, those are dealing with the livestock, and those also that are dealing with both crops and the livestock. Now, we are saying when a farmer, or sort of when the agric advisor deals with the farmers that are doing crops, at least they must have 150. In other words, the ratio must one extension officer is the vis-a-vis also equal to 150, so they can able to interact easily with the farmers. We also look at the also large-scale commercial producers. At least we can say one extension practitioner is equal to 400. That's also in terms of our farmers. That's also what we are projecting, Chairperson and the colleagues, so that in future. So we are working on it. All the Department of Agriculture across the province, we are working towards this so that we can able to improve also in terms of the service delivery, as well as also to also improve in terms of the contact with our farmers, which is our client. Now, Chairperson and also the colleagues, what is important in terms of the marinated practitioners, I always say that if you want to be also an agric advisor or extension practitioner, you need to have the agricultural skills. Without that, Chairperson and the colleagues, it will be very difficult to interact with our farmers. Remember, agricultural advisor or extension practitioners, when they advise farmers that they've got the huge knowledge, they've got the advanced knowledge in terms of the practice. So now if we are fresh from the university, we are fresh from the school, but make sure that universities—
Mr. Ntshangase, you have a few minutes, please wrap up so that we can continue.
Thank you very much. And also it is very important in terms of these are the unmarinated extension approach, extension method, extension principles, agricultural science, as well as also agricultural skills. Now, definitely we need to ensure that the nation has enough food. The country needs more producers. It is also the farmers are aging. We need youth in terms of that. By end of my presentation, Chairperson, the world as we also created is a process of our thinking. It cannot be also changed without changing our thinking. That is also called from Albert. Thank you very much, Chairperson, and also fellow students. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ntshangase. Wow, I think here we had a lot of questions. I hope you are ready for them, but you really prompted a lot of thinking here with the presentation. And I thank you so much. I think even myself, I wrote a lot of questions for you, and you really shared information that is very important for students to understand when it comes to not only the employment part, but also what is demanded in the department. Okay, or I think it's the umbrella, all departments of agriculture in South Africa, right? So without further ado, that's speaking too much, let us welcome the next speaker, Dr. Collen Sibiya. He'll be presenting his topic on the recruitment and selection procedures that are followed at KZN Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. And Dr. Sibiya, the floor is yours. Please take us through the presentation.
Thanks, Program Director, and good afternoon, good students, and also I greeted the principal and you as a coordinator in UKZN, and every protocol is observed. I'll take you through in terms of how we do in order to have the staffing in our organization, more specific for the students that are just coming from the school, from the College of Agriculture or any agriculture institution. In some of the information I'll just go through because it's been covered in more detail. But let me take you through what I'm going to cover. One, I'll be covering the issue of selection and recruitment policy. As you know, in any organization, there is a certain processes because of the competition in terms of the available jobs or posts. You will need to have the policy in place. And also the issue of advertisement of post and development program. If you overlook the issue of advertisement, you might miss many issues while you got all the competencies that is required, you may be excluded. So I will take you through. The recruitment involved post and the developmental program, I'll just take you through. How to respond to the advert, I'll take you through. Selection and appointment, I'll take you through. Summary recruitment processes, just to give you a broader picture. And the scarce skill and hard to fill position, I'll just take you through. One of the issues that I want you to able to understand in terms of selection, a policy is one that regulates how the post must be filled in the department or in the public sector as a whole. Once we advertise any post, we have a target to fill the post within the period of 6 months. If exceeded 6 months due to the unforeseen reason within the organization, it should not longer than 12 months. If there's some delays, you must be aware the manner which the money had been managed in the department in terms of allocating this, committing the funds for the post. It might cause some sort of a delay. One of the issues that we need to be aware in terms of all public service and our department, we are also affirmative action, equal opportunity employer. We take into account everybody on merit. At the same time, we also consider the issue of employment equity target that had been prescribed within the public sector or within the South African government. Then I will take you through in terms of the entry posts that do not need any relevant experience from the young. I think one has indicated in terms of registration, I'll be taking you through in terms of the candidate, what we meant as a contribution so that we'll be able to have the access in the agriculture sector. That is across the country as well as specific here in our department, because we want you to join in the agriculture as a business as well as a career. The employer are carefully selected, manage and retain, just like in other resources. When we are selected, we are in there's certain legislation and so forth, prescribable as well as to retain you. I think it's already been indicated. The part of retention is we will make sure that we're able to accommodate the point that we are needing the continuous development. There's certain workshop, a certain intervention that we need to attend. Others are arranged by institutions of learning, others by the professional bodies. But we'll see that is why we have what we call it a workplace skills plan. Those are a program for skill development. When we advertise when we recruit, we involve actively advertising to potential candidates, obtaining their interest in the post and the development program. We are not quite sure who's coming. That's why we put in the open so that anyone who can meet the requirement of the advert, they may respond. Advertisement is an announcement that inform potential candidate that a certain post is available within the department And that's how to also do within the sector. Then it contains information not only about post requirements, it also indicated the type of the duty, responsibility, and the location of the job that that your application will be responding to. As you see in the presentation, those are key issues that you have to look at. Then we also advertise the graduate program. That is a fixed, because it's for the developmental purpose, as we need to get you to be registered so that we'll be able to assist you to have that exposure and be registered with the professional body. That is why we have those developmental programs to meet those agricultural skills that we are talking about. You might not get them at the institution. Those are, you have a knowledge skill that we will change your behavior. This graduation program is involved in the growing agriculture through this program that lasts between 12 months and 24 months, depend at the particular time. Already indicated here, but what I want to indicate to you so that you can able to see what I'm talking about, the filling of permanent and contract posts. These are two, the procedure is the same. There is some areas where we do not get anybody to come and do the job. We contract an individual with the expertise for the duration of their specific period. Others, they even call you, we need a headhunt and so forth, but those areas. Then filling of the contract post is like also the development program are contract basis. That is why I mentioned the period, to say 12 months to 24 months. Then there is one where we are talking about the issue of registration. We call it occupation specific dispensation development program, where we put you for a 3-year contract as a candidate agriculture scientist. I put the scientist because agriculture is broad, as Dr. Mkhize indicated. During that time, you acquire specific skill, knowledge and skill that would change your behavior to be a competent scientist or extension advisor, depending on the field that we are in. We also have the candidate engineer. At this point in time, is one of the biggest challenge that we have for the engineer. We have been sponsoring them in the institution, but in the throughput, they finished the academic, they got a challenge in terms of getting themselves registered. So we are tackling that particular area. We have now developed the area of, we call it engineers development program, that we just started to work on it so that we do not leave you just in the limbo. We just go with you until you finish. I'm not going to talk much about the crop production protection. Dr. Mkhize just highlighted the oil field that are involved in agriculture. I just indicated the sample that you need to look at. Then we go to the development program. This development program is focusing you when you are already on the system, so that we'll be able to acquire those particular skills within them. Within the training that we offer. We invest a lot of money in terms of skill development levy and in terms of the Skill Development Act. We also have the graduate internship in the certain areas where not specific that you need to register like yesterday. We also give you the internship, so you have the exposure, you have a practical issue, you're exposed to the extension methodology, you're exposed in the reporting that involve all the issues that is involved in the organization as required for your own development. Then we got a graduation development program. So the internship is 24 months. Then you find that you can't able to stand by your own feet. We also have the graduate development program that is after internship, could be a year or 18 months, so that we'll be able to function independent as a professional in the field of agriculture. So those are advertised for that particular purpose. One of the things that you must be careful, you might have all the qualification, you might have every expertise, but make sure that the prescribed Z83, one of the key issues, can fill everything, but if it's not endorsed by your own blood or your own signature, cannot be considered. Put your CV detailed, because it's your face.
You have you can wrap up for us, and we'll continue to the next speaker. Thank you. Dr. Sibiya.
I'll skip the rest. You'll get it there. I'll just go to the summary. Whenever we do anything, it's already been identified what job description you required and what expertise that we need. That is why we put it on the advertisement to say the content that is in. We also indicate how we go about shortlisting. We want to be transparent as possible. In some cases, we need to do some tests to test your knowledge rather than the skill and behavior that we're going to acquire. Then we also indicate in terms of the interview that is fair to all, standardized, structured. We tell you about how we go about final to get the appointment. You'll find it there in the presentation. That is a summary of whole what I've been mentioning to you. That is a whole summary. This also I'm not going to touch because I've been indicated. One of the two key issues at this point in time in agriculture is agriculture engineering, agriculture scientists. We've got a problem. I think the presenter they indicated. I also indicated the engineering knowledge and skill. Those are part that we're going to gain during the candidate and scientists as we indicated. I think up to this, our focus in terms of skill, scarce skill, that is a long-term investment. We were focusing to the youth, to you, where at the university are about to finish, to come and contribute. They already indicated the age in the industry. With those words, I conclude my presentation. I'm available whenever further questions regarding these processes of development and recruitment within the organization. Thank you, facilitator.
Thank you, Dr. Sibiya. It was a very useful conversation we had, or useful presentation. Without wasting too much time, the questions are coming. The students do have questions for you. Let us welcome the last speaker for the day, Dr. Qwabe, who will be sharing a presentation. She's the UKZN alumni. She will be sharing with us her experience since working for the KZNDARD. Dr. Qwabe, you're welcome. Please take over the presentation.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thanks to the program organizer. Good afternoon, students. I want to confirm that I was a student from University of KwaZulu-Natal, and I want to summarize all what I have said because I also benefited from all what Dr. Sibiya that have presented in terms of the career and the support that the department is offering. So I would like to take you through being myself as a student and being myself as a manager, and also show you what is it that you can expect when you are developing within the system. So can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, as my introduction, I want to let you know that as a student, the most of your focus is on you to finish your degree, and you are excited about that. And you wouldn't know, you thought when you finish your degree, everything is fine. And then you are not aware that when you finish the degree, then you have to start again. And it's like you have to be mentored. So my focus will be on a research side because I was exposed in the research side as a scientist. So first thing that you can expect after you graduated as a student, understand that you need to get a mentorship, which will be through the candidate scientist program that Dr. Sibiya has taken you through. That will require you to register as an OSD. There are requirements that has been explained by Dr. Sibiya. And then after that, you will be a professional scientist. That will take you a period of 3 years. And then that will now, you are following you being a candidate scientist. So then you will be having that registration as a professional scientist through USACNAPS. So when you have been registered as a EE professional scientist, then you will be able to apply through the department and get a permanent job. However, that does not limit you not to go to other spheres. So another thing that you have to understand is that the environment is different from being a student, and the environmental, the working environment is different. So as a scientist, you must understand that there are policy transcripts and there are research alignment that you have to understand when you join the department as a professional scientist. And again, you must also understand that sometimes you have to do the collaboration, because agriculture is vast, distributed in shared among other areas of institutions. So you need to collaborate so that you make yourself to grow. And at the end, you must be a person who will be able to change and influence the policies, because there is a lot that is happening within the field of agriculture. Can you, next slide, please? This is just to summarize what is it that your science as a professional scientist has to influence. So through research, you must have, your research must at the end of the day influence the change in the policy. But today, because I want to take you on a practicality of it, I will just zoom straight to the analysis, to the research that collaboration that we have done, that was talking to the nutrients, phytochemicals and toxins that we are undertaken from the crop science and from the through the analysis on lab. So I won't touch other areas of the research processes so that it does not confuse you. So I want to take you through the practicality of how you being a scientist can you influence the policy change through your research. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, like I have indicated earlier on, that you have to collaborate with others. So that also assists you as a student, that you will get a support in terms of funding. So let's say you are now employed in the Department of Agriculture. So for you to keep up with your scientific knowledge and your scientific growth, you need to have good relationship with other universities and with other sister departments within the province. So like here, we were just showing during the COVID-19, there was a lot of challenges when it comes to which are the crops that might contribute to the nutrition, brought about nutrition solutions when people were suffering from COVID. So these were sort of an experiment that we conducted. So we had sort of a collaboration between the University of KwaZulu-Natal and Department of Health. It's just to show you that in the department, you don't have to work in silos as a scientist. You have also to have a collaborations. Next slide, please. Yes, so as a practical example, these are limiting micronutrients that was identified during the COVID-19. And then as a scientist in the Department of Agriculture, you wouldn't know within the range of the crop itself, which one does constitute the levels, high levels that are equally related or are equally required by our bodies. So this has to be a study that will be at the end influence the policy changes in terms of the research. So these were type of the micronutrient that we're looking at as a scientist. I will show you how this at the end able to influence the policy change after the COVID-19 as a scenario as I'm talking right now. Next slide, please. Again, these were part of the crop. The crop that we were looking at, it was including both exotic and indigenous crops, and it was also including the fruits, the indigenous fruit. As you see below there, the red fruit is the indigenous ones, which were are the ones that are looked down and they are not attended to. So we had to look into it based on the information from the research that we have received, that it has got high nutrient quality in it. However, we could not do this if there was no research that was conducted. Next slide, please.
Dr. Nwa, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap for us because of time. We are actually, yes, we are behind time.
Okay, thank you. And this is also the same example as above. Can you go to the next slide? Again, it shows, then this was sort of the findings that you were to find from your previous research. And then go to the next slide. This is where I wanted to show the student that from your research as a student, you could see that it interlinked with what we are doing at a university. However, in the department, then we have a laboratories that it has to go and do the analysis on the chemical analysis of each and every crop, so that it will indicate which are the fiber content, which are phytochemistry, and which are toxins that are found in those in those crops, and that will then influence the policy development of the department. So this is to show that if you were working alone as a student or as a professional scientist, you wouldn't go up to this level. You will end up knowing this, and you could not take this information to the strategic level where it will influence the change in the policy. So this is why a EE program that Dr. Sibiya has to be aligned with what the department or what the government has wanted to achieve. So as a student, you must understand that as you are studying, you have to also understand that at the end of the day, your studies has not to be, it must not end on the shelf, but at the end of the day, it must be something that is going to contribute on service delivery and also contribute to the policy changes. And it has to go up to a level whereby our livelihood, it has to change. Lastly, yeah, this was just a conclusion which shows that at the end of what I have indicated as a study, you can go to the next slide, Sisi. This now is a results that now show that all what you have done as a student, it is now influence the food-based vitamin and mineral dietary guidelines, which in the previous, this is the existing one, but now it has to change because of the information that you have developed from indigenous crop and indigenous fruits. So these are the major progress or processes that as a student, you have to understand that as a student, you will be exposed to a different environment when you get to a working environment, as opposed to now, as you are focusing to pass your module and to finish your studies. So you must know that as you get to the working environment, you have to align yourself with, understand the policy guideline, understand what is it that is expected from you, and also you must make a change through your research and through your science. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Qwabe. So that was our last speaker for the day. I just want to quickly thank all the speakers for the very informative presentations. I think I also have a lot of questions, but I'm going to go through the questions that the students asked for different speakers before we can have extra questions. If you have follow-up questions, I think you're welcome, but we have a few minutes to do that. So we'll start with the first speaker, Dr. Mkhize, to ask the questions, the students. So the common questions we have to put them together and ask the questions. So the first question was, what can we do to find internships and jobs in agriculture? It was mentioned that there is a lack of graduates or a lack of employees. So they want to know what they can do to find the internships and jobs.
Khuthadzo, you wanted from a response?
That is the first question. That's directed to
Thanks, Khuthadzo, but I did send a response on the chat box.
All right.
Yes,
So
I thought they're going to take it from there to save time.
I was jotting down the questions. I didn't see the answers. So there's another question regarding the youth. You mentioned the youth must and do some actions, but the question is, what kind of support is the department offering to the youth in order for them to start businesses in agriculture?
Thank you, Khuthadzo. I didn't get that one. We do have a system. We have policies through which we support farmers. And those farmers are according to the age, there's youth, there's the gender. So when people start to get to a level where they are doing their farming and the businesses, they put through applications. Those are considered from the local level, the district level up to the provincial level, and then they are assisted as according to the policy.
All right.
Thank you.
I hope that is clear for the student that asked questions. The question and the other question is, what platforms are there for those who are developing technologies besides starting agribusinesses? From what I'm hearing, you are saying that if you have started a business, then you can get the facilities or you can get the assistance. The business must be existing. The question is, those who are in the technology development side of things, how are they being assisted?
Thank you, Khuthadzo. I also responded on that one on the chat box. The department is not an expert in the technology field. However, when young people graduated the matric level and they decide to go and do a technology-related profession, when they qualify, we do have internships, and when there are jobs, we do appoint them because the department has got computers, hardware, and software that we need people to assist from time to time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mkhize. I would go to questions that were aligned with the second speaker. Let me just, Mr. Ntshangase. So the first question, Mr. Ntshangase, I hope you can hear me. The first question is, you mentioned that there's a need to increase the agricultural extension advisors. The question is, what is stopping the department from hiring the amount of officers that are needed?
Chairperson, Mr. Ntshangase had been just called by our principal, but to take his question,
Okay.
the issue that is stopping, hello? The issue that is stopping at this particular time, we all aware that is started being indicated, and then we need to budget there's something we call it MTF to filter in our budget, because one of the constraints is the funding. But the department keep on appointing based on affordability, but he was presenting the ideal situation where the department wants to be there on some time. As we were aware, the issue of resources in terms of funding, it can take a little bit time, but at least we have the information in terms of the start, what need to be done. And then we are, as a department, we are going with the recovering plan to try and train and reskill what we have, and also put the young people to have mentors and take through the processes. So we're working close with the extension, Mr. Ntshangase, we work so close in terms of extension recovering plan. So at this point in time, those are resources like financial constraint. That is one of the key issues. According to our wishes, we tabled what we need to be done, but we are working toward that, but it will take us a little bit planning and time. I'm not quite sure that Dr. Mkhize, we want to add on that because it's just been called, but as far as I know, as we're working together, I can give that summary in terms of that, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Sibiya, for that. So
That's
the
perfect.
other,
That's
sorry.
perfect. Nothing to add.
So another questions I think which is aligning with that one is what collaborative efforts are you making to improve the rural economy besides having, because of the capacity of extension you have? So I'm thinking students want to know in other respective fields which may be not related to extension, can there be any where they may be involved in technology? How can they be part of solutions to assist farmers because of the lack of this extension services?
Maybe to add here, Dr. Collen.
Sorry, Doc. I was going to say, Khuthadzo, where we've got rural people who are not educated in agriculture but practicing, the department through its colleges has got something that was called Further Education and Training, or FET, but it's now called Agricultural Skills Development. We go out into the communities, we do skills identification of the needs, and then we train people according to their needs and involvement. That does uplift the rural people, because in whatever they are doing, they have got more information, and some of them end up being improving their businesses. So that is the way they can do. But still, in terms of technology, we do not have anything that we can offer in that regard. Dr. Sibiya, you can add. Thanks.
Program director, I wanted to indicate that actual fact in the summary Dr. Mkhize mentioned, I wanted to indicate that we do have two colleges in the department, that College of Setara College, as well we have the Owen Sithola College. We also have the short courses to empower our extension with the new information again, and also to train the farmers. We also have now, for the lower level that they hardly read and write, we also have now a learnership that we are conducting, we are facilitating together with the skill development side of the colleges. There is some improvement areas that we are doing to take care of all the rural people. Over and above that, it is something that we never talk about. We also have a wing, we call it a rural development as a branch within the organization to try and assist everybody, because we all need food. Agriculture is the key at this particular time. Thanks, sir.
Thank you for highlighting that. The other question is related to registration. The questions, I matched them together, is registration and maintaining the registration status by SANS nurse is expensive. So to maintain is expensive as well. But the question now is, if you require people who are registered as a graduate student, as a graduate who has no employment, what can they do, or what opportunities or what platforms do you provide for one to be registered?
Khuthadzo, I'll take that. The department also, the researchers and the advisory services have to be registered with SACNASP. The SACNASP organization is not housed inside the department, it's an independent organization. Yeah. Unfortunately, we do not have an influence on them. But when there is a requirement according to the DPSA in terms of the job, the incumbent has to be registered. I think we will have to organize a session where the students can pose the question to SACNASP. I think that will be important because the cost, while it's exorbitant for the students, it continues to go up as well for the professionals. I think it's at 1.5 for the professionals. So, but I think a session is needed for your students to get information from the SACNASP and maybe pose their questions. Maybe that can be addressed. Thank you.
So essentially, you cannot, our graduates, if you are in your last year applying, there are no opportunities for you if you are not registered by SACNASP, or there are graduate opportunities that don't require that registration.
So in terms of the scientific fields, especially when we talked about the OSD, there are posts that really need someone to be registered when you talk about the scientific fields. But there are also posts that do not need the registration, but where it's needed, it is a requirement. And unfortunately, where one is not registered, one has we just cannot even shortlist them. I think Dr. Qwabe would like to add on this one because she's the one who really demands that in her unit. Dr. Qwabe.
Thanks. I can't pronounce your name, sorry. For the registration, I think the program that Dr. Sibiya has presented, the internship, those are the programs that we encourage students that they register when they get to the institution, because the registration cost are different based on the categories which the student is registered under. So if you are still at the university and you haven't have any qualification, you are just you have your degree, you will register as a certificated, then the cost is low. Then when you move up to a candidate scientist, then also the cost is a little bit higher. As a professional scientist again, then you will be paying more. So those programs that Dr. Sibiya was presenting as a support. So we encourage students when they get to institution, we assist them in terms of them getting registration, because again, they will need a mentor for them to get to a professional scientist. So they cannot be registered while they are outside the institution. So the entry level is the internship, whereby you get into the system without registration. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. I think if the students have follow-up questions, we'll have to check them, but I think you've nipped it there. So let's go to the third speaker questions. They mentioned a lot about engineering. I think that's where some students had questions about the agricultural engineering side of things. Let me just ask the question all in one. So you say that the registration of you require, you are struggling with agricultural, sorry, with registered agricultural engineers. The question is, are you referring to professional agricultural engineers? So when it comes to that, the other question is, are there any graduate student opportunities? Because it is said that there are students who've graduated, but they are not employed. So why is there a demand of agricultural engineers? Is it because you are looking for professional engineers, or because you are you don't have programs for the graduate program for the graduates agricultural engineers?
In terms of that, let me clarify what I mean. We sponsor the young people to study engineering. They're able to go through to the university system, But to get registered, that is why Dr. Qwabe already indicated to say we got the issue of internship, where we do not need any registration. We have to notice that we also have the candidate, where now we are focusing for specific registration. The engineering side, that's what we need. We need a professional engineer to sign off our program in terms of infrastructure and so forth. The issue here in engineering, in order to get it registered, is not only to do the activities within a public sector. So the program have been developed together with the national department. So in such a way, you'll be seconded to the private sector and work with the private sector in order to meet the requirement of a professional board, and then you can be certified as a professional engineer. The challenge is all these years cannot be able, because we need to have a partnership with the private sector to be engineer. Engineer, we are not only training for specific for the Department of Agriculture, we're training for the sector, we train for the country. Over the years, what is happening, you find all those who've been completed as engineer in terms of the qualification, they are not able to register. I do not want to talk about the situation of the council, but that's what we have done as a public service, as an intervention to make sure that they are appointed. You find them all over the place. You find them as a project officer there and there. They are not focusing their passion as engineers. So that is why we end up having them after sponsorship to have a candidate engineer to go through to those particular exposure in those particular fields, so that they can have a profile that will be submitted to the professional body and get them certified as engineers, so that we'll be able to, in any infrastructure that we have, even the issue of drilling boreholes and so forth, to be able to sign it off as a professional engineer. We got a shortage of them. Thanks.
I'm now trying to, as an agriculture engineer myself, I'm trying to wrap this up. So you are saying that we cannot really, you don't really promote the graduates because of because the issue now is they are unemployed graduates, but it gives you too much work to employ a graduate. You'd rather prefer a PRN or a PR one with a PRN, right? Am I getting that right?
I think, Chairperson, all this intervention have been covered by Ntshangase, Dr. Qwabe, and Dr. Mkhize. That is how the professional board and the side of the agriculture sector as a whole, you cannot be employed without being registered as a professional people in that particular area. So this development program is there so that assisting the student or the youth that are fresh from school to go through to the system. Dr. Qwabe even talk about the policies and other issues, so that they'll be productive and able to contribute effectively in terms of the, unfortunately, those fields is a policy driven in terms of the compliance and registration. That's why the actual fact have been set up in order to have a standard and professionalities in terms of that. And then the development program are there to make sure that they progress up to that particular level. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Just to let me quickly go through the few questions that are remaining. Another question is relating to the recruitment process. You mentioned there's a test that is done. The question is, what type of test is that?
I've skipped the because of managing time, where we are talking about the test or assessment. What will normally happen in any organization where you have about 50 people, but you only need 30. What you do, you only want to know their knowledge. I'm not talking about the skill side. their knowledge to say they do understand what they want, because it's an entry. They understand the concept that are in there, so that they don't be able to, just as one of the shortlisting processes, I was about to indicate that, to say, unfortunately, because of Dr. Mkhize indicated the lack of availability of job, and also the lack of people from the school or from the School of Agriculture so to try and start their own business. We also have the program to assist in terms of business, but we need to have a certain criteria that is fair and open to all, to have some sort of assessment so that we can come to the number that is in terms of availability of budget. If because of those resources are scarce, we cannot able to get them all. Is those tests to try and minimize as one of the procedures in terms of going to the interview. Then you're calling the people that they know the concept involved, what is lacking to have exposure in terms of practicality, to have a skill that will change their behavior and contribute effectively in the organization. There's no specific test. It depends on the discipline where you apply, and then it depends on the quantity of the application that we receive within that particular area. And we have to comply with the administration of justice to be fair to all, to be assessed in the same manner, so that we can select those who are required. I'm talking about when we need them in the organization as a Department of Agriculture. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Unfortunately, there's some interesting questions that we couldn't ask, but we'll immediately forward them to the relevant people, and then you can get a response via email. So, so far, we are at the end of the program, and we are going to go to the next section, which is, I would like to thank the speakers. I think they really prompted our minds. They made us to think a lot as students. And I believe there's a lot of knowledge that was not known that was shared today. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And there are many questions, but we will definitely have to put them together and still further ask for answers. So with that said, I will thank everyone, the students who also came, and I will ask Sine to share the slides regarding our next industry talk.
Okay, thank you so much, Khuthadzo. Thank you, all the speakers. Thank you so much. Students, kindly note that the recordings will be sent to you, and we will send an email address from KZNDARD if you have any questions that you'd like to still post to them. So thank you, everyone. And the next industry, or next week, is we're running the Career Week, which is taking place on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of August. And the next one, which is the following week, Sneh shared the ESCOM one. And then the following week, it will be the ESCOM industry talk. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the weekend. And we look forward to more interaction with KZNDARD. So look forward to KZNDARD being at the Postgrad Research and Innovation Symposium. Thank you, everyone, and safe travels.
Thank you, sir. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you, bye.